Welcome to the JP8 Report. This is James Pierce coming to you with the JP8 Report, episode 65, hashtag this. Um, Thank y'all for tuning in. Just a reminder, I do my lives um, only on Rumble on Saturdays about 10 o'clock, so tune in. I got some stuff in the works. We'll see how it works out. I got to make a couple phone calls for it. Unbelievable. Excuse me. It's been about a week since I did a podcast, but man, so things in around are happening so fast that it's hard to come up with good podcasts because there's so much material. You get overloaded. That's in the concept of what's going on in DC right now with everything that's happening. Everything is going on with such a rapid pace. You can't keep control of what is transpiring. Um, I woke up this morning, didn't even know, but Kevin McCarthy, the minority leader in the House of Representatives, spoke on the House floor for 8 hours and 32 minutes against the Build Back Better plan from Biden, which pretty much is going to bankrupt our country. I'm going to talk about the BBB and the IB in just a few minutes, but it is all happening at a rapid pace. And while all this is going on, people forgot already about the border and forgot about what happened in Afghanistan. It's just they overload you to make you forget, and they go on to the next subject without solving what happened last. And it's unbelievable, but it happens. It's happening every day. They're going to keep fighting. They lose very seriously in Virginia and in New Jersey, and they just continue on like nothing happened. The president doesn't understand. The vice president doesn't understand. Democrats don't understand. The Republicans understand. We'll get to that in a few minutes, okay? So, hashtag this. Hashtag this is in response to the Department of Justice with Merrick Garland's testimony about the National School Board Association memo that somehow got to him, which he says he never saw, about pursuing Americans that want to use their First Amendment rights to speak up at a government meeting, which they have the right to do, and charge him as domestic terrorist. Unless a threat is being conveyed, why would you even do that? Excuse me, but wait a minute. We have local police that does that. Why would the Federal Bureau of Investigation have to do, unless you're intending to charge people with a federal crime and screw their life up royally forever and ever for stuff that they don't do? But maybe that's the intent. But Merrick Garland said he had no input whatsoever what was going on. He just thought it was a good idea. Then all of a sudden this memo shows up, and all of a sudden he writes a memo that directs it to the FBI. And then we find out that there's coordination, collaboration between the White House and the National School Board Association about developing this memo to go to Merrick Garland so he can issue his ruling to go to the FBI. And what the FBI does is they got this thing, and I never knew it happened, but when they do files on people, and then they catalog all these files, more files, more files, more files. Everybody has a file probably. We don't even know it. But what they do is they hashtag it and put a subject matter on it. So if they got to find a certain thing, they'll go like hashtag Pierce domestic violence, okay? Or let's see, hashtag Pierce podcaster. We'll go like that. So 10 years down the road, then you'd find stuff on me that's just cataloged online. They go on the internet, not the internet, but the internet. They go in there and do the hashtag, and everything comes up with that hashtag on it. That's what going. But wouldn't that be an invasion of your privacy? Because we all have the freedom of speech, the freedom of the press. Like, if we have freedom of press, it gives me the right to cut a podcast, okay, or write a blog, or start a newspaper. Who is it in the government can dictate that I can't have those rights? We in Texas, we have House Bill 2480, which allows Texans to go before their school boards and city councils and other governmental bodies. They'd be able to have a section in there called Citizens Forum to be able to speak their mind, okay? And even be critical of the elected members. And during that time, the school board members or the city council people or the board directors, trustees, or whatever you call them, according to our laws, you can't speak up in that time at all. So the other day, 2 people in Round Rock were arrested at the Round Rock Independent School District for doing the same exact thing. And I put on one of my Facebook posts the other morning. I said, Governor Abbott and Ken Paxton, the Attorney General, should be involved in that, because they're denying their rights under the Texas Constitution to be able to have that freedom of speech in a governmental meeting. I'm still waiting to hear something about that. Maybe it's because it's Round Rock, we haven't heard anything else, or it's too early in the process. But those city council, those school board trustees in Round Rock, they need to be recalled or defeated in an election. One of them was, I think it was the one in Round Rock. Round Rock is just like a little bit northeast of Austin. If you're watching from a different state, it's a little bitty town. It's a pretty cool town. It's like doubled in size in 10 years. Now it's a big city. One of them was had a database of all of his political opponents and people that came up to speak before the school board. Why does he need that? There's no reason for that school board president to have that. But if you're listening, Ken Paxton or one of his friends, please look at that. That's unacceptable. I don't do it at my government meeting that I go to, and I don't expect anyone in the school district or city council meeting to do the same thing. Okay. To me, the Attorney General of the United States, Merrick Garland, did lie before Congress because he knew what was going on, and he keeps covering it up. And I don't care if the National School Board Association took the memo back. The fact is that it was written, and it was collaborated with the White House, and everybody lied about it. They can play this game all they want. In 1 year, they're out of power, except for the White House. But there's stuff that can be done that remedy that. Okay. I don't get how these Democrats can actually sit there and think they can manipulate the American people as long as they're doing it, and think that we don't care. You know, Republicans just flipped the Virginia House back to Republican, and they got a Republican governor and a Republican lieutenant governor. So they can play the fake analogy is ostriches, when they get scared, they stick their head in the sand. They can play that little game, but the reality is you're done. And it ain't going to happen. Sacrificing the rights of Americans with the FBI violating our First Amendment rights, okay, and our Fourth Amendment rights, and our Fifth Amendment rights, regardless. And then you have an administration that purposely ignores the court system and their rulings in their day-to-day business. Thank goodness someone in the OSHA the other day said, oh, the Fifth Court Appeals says we can't enforce the mandate for employers with 100 or more employees. Thank goodness someone said we're going to abide by it, because the Biden administration, their boss, was saying to enforce it. So someone had a good head on their shoulders, because, you know, I don't get it. I just don't get it. So the next subject I wanted to talk about was the Build Back Better plan and the bipartisan infrastructure bill. Okay, lots of money going out. $1.2 billion for that so-called bipartisan infrastructure bill. 700 of it was appropriated already with fuel taxes. It just had to be reauthorized. But we added another $500 billion for little pet projects all over the United States. We had some Republicans in the Senate and some Republicans in the House that voted for it. Why? Why would we do a stupid thing by 10% of that bill is going for infrastructure? Do we just drive our vehicles and pay fuel taxes for free? That money is meant to do infrastructure across the United States, not to say if you are a union-owned business, you get this. If you're a non-union-owned business, you don't get nothing but scraps. Come on. And then you take your little show on the road to New Hampshire. And Governor Sununu said it. Why did he even come up here to a bridge that's not even going to be replaced? It's stupid. It's wasting our money. Like his Secret Service bill for just going back and forth to Delaware for this year is $3 million. Why couldn't he just stay in the White House or go to Camp David like lots of other presidents do? It's too good for him. Now they're building a wall around his compounds in Delaware, but he doesn't want to build a wall along the Rio Grande. So he wants to keep everybody out of his what do you call it? Hold on just a second here. Right there. Oh wow, reflection of the sun. So he wants to keep everybody out of his compound, but let all these illegal aliens, unvetted, come across the United States. It doesn't. It's not right. It is not right. I cannot wait till this is over. But with the Build Back Better plan, it's just going to move us towards socialism. We're going to end up owing so much money with all these bonds that will be issued out to pay for these projects and stuff that we're not going to be able to pay for it. And our inflation is going to go to hyperinflation. Interest rates are going to go sky high. We're not going to be able to do anything. Maybe this is their plan, but we'll enter into an area of austerity. Well, we'll say nobody gets any benefits. Everybody's going to be poor, and they're still going to be spending money. They're going to gut our defense and say, hey, everybody around the world, you have to fend for yourself because we're closed for business, and we're going to stay at home, and no one's going to work, and no one's going to work. It never works. It never. If this bill passes, the benefits in that bill and the Build Back Better plan will be hard to be repealed. And they keep saying it on the news. Nothing ever ends in D.C. Once you pass a social welfare bill, you can't pull it back because they call it political suicide. Well, maybe some Americans that are going to Congress need to play political suicide and rescue our country from committing political suicide. Okay, they scored this $1.75 trillion bill, saying it's going to add $376 billion to the deficit. Okay, it was supposed to be budget neutral, but it's going to be $376 billion in the red. But there's a trick to it. They put the child tax credit in the bill, the one that they got now, where it's $300 a month per child, because they say we need it. We need to keep giving all this free money away. But these yahoos tricked us, and there was another bill in there too besides that one. But they scored it for 1 year. Normally they score it for 5 to 10 years, but they only scored it for 1 year, adding $125 billion to that bill. So instead of $125 billion at 5 years, because there's going to come up for a vote next year, and they're going to say, you're not going to take away that check from that family and needs that child care. They need all that extra money. You won't get reelected. Well, I say try it. Okay, but so 125 billion. So if you look at that, if you scored it for 5 years, how much would that be? So it'd be $625 billion. If I got my numbers right. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, that'd be $625 billion at 5 years for that one program. So you just add 500. You just added $500 billion to that bill, which takes it from 1.75 to 2.25. Now, if you scored it for 10 years, you're talking about $1.25 trillion for that one budget bill alone. And there was another bill scored the same way. They made it filter out after 1 year, knowing full well that they're going to reissue it the following year. What my answer to the Republicans are, it's illegitimate. You can't afford it. Austerity it. Get it out. Okay, if you got to sunset it down to where you wean people off of it, do it. Or just flat out cut them off. We can't afford this. All we're doing is driving our country into bankruptcy. And if you say, well, we'll just put the Republicans back in charge and they can flip it. How'd that fare with Obamacare? We still got it because the way the Constitution is written is to override a presidential veto. Okay, that means you got to make it anything that happens between now and 2025, January 2025, it's going to require an override of the veto. And that means in the Senate, you need 67 votes to override. And in the House, you need 288 votes to override. Right now, there's 212 Republicans in the House and 50 Republicans in the Senate. The most you'll see if the Republicans take the Senate is we get the 64 or 65 U.S. senators. Oh, 55, I'm sorry. 54 or 55 U.S. senators, not 67. That's a long ways away. And then it'll be a different story in the House because we are going to have close to 300 U.S. representatives that are Republicans at this next election. There will be. And the way they keep going with these Democrats, there may be more Republicans there. And FDR had 319 Democrats in his Congress at one point. So Joe Biden is not as popular as he thinks he is, and these progressives, they're not as popular as they think they are. They may rule the roost right now, but they're going to pay the piper later. But so going back to these numbers, okay, I'm a numerology type person because I'm a historian. I correlate numbers on everything. But until we get a Republican president, that you're going to need 67 votes to rescind the override in the Senate and 288 in the House. Now, if there's a Republican president, it makes it a little bit easier, but still frightful on the potential of people like, well, you can't terminate that policy because we earned it and we get it. But then all you need is a simple majority in the House and then 60 senators in the Senate to kill the filibuster. Well, not to kill it, but to end the filibuster and vote for cloture. Okay, and if you don't know that, you need to go look at the Schoolhouse Rock, and it's a bill on Capitol Hill, and it explains the whole thing. Okay, and plus, if you didn't know, the person who wrote the little cartoon, It's a Bill, passed away the other day. He was 88 years old. I've seen that show so many times, it's unbelievable. But, and then another thing, what happens, and this is a wow scenario, okay? What would happen after next January? This is unbelievable. After next January 23, that something happened to the president, okay, and then Harris. Oh wow, this is unbelievable. Okay, the scenario I heard was they convinced Stephen Breyer to retire and to eliminate the thorn in the president's side, appointed Harris to the Supreme Court, which is his right. Leaves a vacancy on the Supreme Court. By that time, Kevin McCarthy will become the Speaker of the House, right? And then there's a vacancy for the Supreme Court because you don't just automatically jump up, okay? And then the Senate Republicans deny the vice presidential pick, and he stays without a vice president, and he's the president, and something happens to the president, and then McCarthy becomes president of the United States. It probably wouldn't happen, but that is how the succession works. He doesn't become acting president, he becomes the president. But the political tightrope that you'll be walking across in that kind of scenarios, you did that on purpose. So, like it or not, we're going to have a Democrat in office until January 2025. Hopefully, we'll survive as a country until then. But we can't spend this money. From this year alone, it looks like we've done if this stuff goes through, about at least $9 trillion to the debt. And I guess the Democrats think this is monopoly money, but it's real money. Real money that our great-grandkids, we keep saying it over and over again, that we're going to end up paying. The only thing you can hope for is that the real people in the room stand up in the Senate and say, no, this is not going to happen. But they'll probably fall on their swords and screw our country over, and we will be wrecked for a generation to come. Unless we get Republicans or anyone that wants to serve our community to stand up and say, I will not allow this to happen. And if you lose your seat, if you feel like you can't hold that seat, you know what? Just find someone to take your place, and you step down and let them run. There's lots of Republicans out there. They just need the incentive to be able to stand up and run for office. If you're going to get involved in politics, get involved. Don't just sign your name to a ballot a filing place to run for office and just let it ride. You got to get out there and do it. Some people don't understand it, but we have a country to save and a people to support. And people forget about doing that kind of stuff. But unless you want to keep spending 2 or 3 trillion extra dollars on top of the budget every year until someone says, we call the note, then you're going to learn the hard way. My hat's off to Leader McCarthy and what he did last night. He needs in his whip. I don't even know who the whip is in the House for the minority, but he needs to whip that vote to keep these congressmen together. Unlike what happened in the bipartisan infrastructure bill, which if those 13 Republicans would not have voted for it, it would have failed. And we could have got some of that meaningless spending out of the bill, which should have never. And it's just not the 13 Republicans in the House. There were 17 or 19 senators, Republican senators in the Senate that did it. Some of these people just need to go. And then with Representative Gosher, the problem is, nothing goes through regular order. Everything comes from the speaker and her staff and their staff. They put together, they put it on the floor and vote for it. Nothing goes through the appropriations the way it's supposed to go. And it needs to go like that. Gosher, he's a Republican that did something stupid, and he apologized for it. And he took this stupid video down, and he apologized for it. And they immediately put a censure resolution on the floor without going through the ethics committee, so they can investigate it. And they censored him, and they took him off his committee assignments. You will live to learn that was a stupid mistake, you stupid Democrats. Because the shoe is going to be on the other foot soon. And you're going to find out really quick that y'all Democrats will be twiddling y'all's thumbs because you ain't going to have as many people as you thought you would have on these committees because the way you treated fellow Republicans. When Charlie Rangel, the crook himself, was censured in 2010 by Nancy Pelosi, they fined him because they went through the ethics committee. They fined him, and he did not lose any committee assignments at all. He stayed there as a congressman and did his job. But now it's so bad you want to take him off his committee assignments so he can't do nothing. And then you have Representative Green. She just travels around and makes speeches because y'all won't even allow her to be on a committee. Y'all self-serving little fools. You're going to pay a drastic price in this next election. And I can't wait to see it. All right. I didn't get everything I wanted to talk about, so I'll cover more on my live Rumble tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. Central. I hope y'all will be there. I hope everybody has a great day today. Thank you for watching the JP8 Report, episode 65, #this. And with that, I'll catch you on the flip side because I am out.